Good morning, everyone. All righty. Little pre-market drop. See where they're going to buy the dip. If they're going to buy the dip. I think so. Dan likes to call them different types of animals. Do they change their stripes? Sometimes. So 44,444. All right, so coming down to some support, and we do not want to see a close below Thursday's low. That opens up the door to lower prices. And so far, these little down moves have been bought consistently. 44, looking at the intraday chart here, 44. All right, so it's a nice size gap. Coming down to this minor support level. We'll see if we have to test that 443 area before we get a bounce, which 443, yes, prior day's low, still above Thursday's low. So basically, we don't want to see a really bad close, meaning it opening here. And I suspect it will bounce at some point, and then we'll see if it gives it back. But a close down here would be a bad sign. And, with SPX, there are a huge amount of bets at 4,500, which is well up here, which is not all that far away. But considering that it's going to be close opening around this level, it's got some work to do to come back. Huge amount of support at 4,400. It really should not get down there, but it'll do whatever it's going to do. So you got to get relatively close to get some premium, but it's opening down here. So 44.75, there's premium there. No, I remember seeing there wasn't anything in between that and 4,500. Let me just go back, take a look over here. Yeah, see if it can detect it. They went back and forth with me a bunch of times looking for more information. I was just like, Zoom support, why don't you just do it yourself? And see what happens. Type something. Okay. Doesn't the market work to disappoint most people? Well, that's an interesting question, TS. We often talk about the market as if it's a entity in of itself that works against us, right? And so what you're really saying is a contrarian being a contrarian. Well, being a contrarian works at extremes. And that's why we use market internals to tell us when objectively prices are at an extreme. And at the moment, they're not. So we're just kind of grinding higher. We're starting the morning on the downside with new, old coronavirus issues, China issues, Taliban issues. So the market always has something to worry about. What we need to look at is say, okay, that is what we're dealing with here this morning. How meaningful is it? Well, it's meaningful on an intraday trading point of view because it's gapping below this congestion area. And through the eyes of how we look at things, what we call MTS, this chart communicated that traders believed that this market would open higher on Monday. Now you could say, well, wasn't there some distribution going on? of course, because there's always buyers and sellers. But this sideways price action after a extended run like this, which creates what we call a price void below, and then buyers continuing to step up, well, institutions were saying this is going to go higher. And if we look at open interest in this in SPX, there's a very large amount of call options at 44.75 and then 4,400, 4,500. So institutions are betting that this is going to go higher. And, and unless this doesn't have a turnaround at some point today to retrace back up, or at a minimum tomorrow, they're like anybody else that experiences being on the wrong side, regardless of how much money they have. So, and when that happens, they will start to unwind positions like anyone else. So we start off the day with an initial bearish gap down. There is a void below here. And, we just look at the next support level. Ideally, it won't get all the way down here. There's a lot of support down here at 44.40 and 44.75. But you can see there's really no support because of the run up to the left. So this is a situation that we say demand has to create support. How do we deal with that? Well, we wait to see, and the way we do it, well, you choose a time frame. I use the 5-minute. I wait to see if the 5-minute forms a pivot. What's a pivot? A bar with 3 higher lows to the left and right. Once it does that, it's created initial support. Then we see if it can make a higher low or retest it, and, what we call the factory work. Right? Weekly chart is still in a solid uptrend. A close below a prior week's low, which hasn't happened in the last month and a half or so. A close below, this broke the low and sprung right back up. We haven't had a close below a prior week's low. And you can see this steady advance here, and this reversal bar, range expansion reversal bar, is why I say we don't really want to see it close below that low. So that's how we start the day. Now, 43.80 is premium down here. I think that's a no-brainer in SPX. Now, you want to go a little higher? I think there's even a little bit of premium down here since we're starting the day lower. But if you want to go a little higher than 43.80, that's, a choice to get a little bit more. I prefer to take the safer bet. And, you've got a lot of open interest at 4,400. You got a lot of support over here. So even if it should be able to get down there, which would be a big move today, it's not likely to keep going. Right? Something terrible would have to happen. It depends on your point of view. I'm thinking about what could be terrible. Anyway, there's enough premium down here. And you can wait to the open and see what happens in the first 5 or 10 minutes, see if it keeps dropping, maybe get a little more juice if that happens. And maybe, you can almost on a daily basis pretty much find what we call juice or premium in SPX because of the leverage. Not so much in SPY. It'd be nice if it did, but SPY also has expiration, 0 days to expiration day. And with this gap down, if there's premium down here, which I haven't looked, I think it would be a no-brainer. Okay, Qs lagged a little last week. Where are they opening? 368, 360. They went down almost to 367. Almost gapping below this bar's low. So we always look at the prior day's low as our first reference point of support. And then how significant is that particular day? Well, it's not as significant as this because this type of a pullback pattern, you can get a dip below here and things could still be okay. Because this is what will become the pivotal point as long as we can get 2 more higher low days to the left here or to the right. 1 second, everyone. Okay. So basically, this looks like beginnings of a trading range. We've been having a lot of boring kind of days, with a lot of narrow days, more movement here, where I say more normal type of movement versus, SPY with these little tiny ranges day to day. Diamonds, Dow has been leading the way up. Kind of followed through on Friday and gave some back, no big deal. And we don't get as much activity here. 354, 55. Similar type of gap down. All right, so we'll see where it goes. It's in an uptrend. It's in an uptrend, really bullish weekly chart. Big red bar reversal, gap down reversal, breaking out of a range, and kind of make a case for a head and shoulders type of a bottom here, which it better not violate. So always keep an open mind. This is your really significant support. That being said, this is where the start of the move began with this reversal day. So whatever happens today, as long as it doesn't come too far down here, we still have to have a bullish bias based on the weekly daily time frame. Now, if for some reason sometime during the week it gets down here, things begin to change. Common sense. Transports made a really nice move last week up into the declining 50 MA, deep retracement. And so this has been in a downtrend, right? But this is the first deep retracement off of a low that got up to what we call major resistance. That's a plus. So it's the beginnings of a bottoming pattern. And we'll see how much this retraces, which is going to be from the daily point of view today, how much the prices retrace or regain this gap. TBT had a nasty reversal on Friday. So it did have a nice move up earlier in the week. Didn't get up to the 50 in the pivot like the transports did. But this move down, it's kind of a measure of institutions, while bullish on equities and saying, hey, we think it's going to go higher, kind of like a hedge there, because what were they doing? Well, they're buying bonds, and that's why that went down. You can see the 10-year, how that popped up, and the 30-year, they popped up there. So a little bit of, concern, but not too much so. And we had crude oil, which started moving lower. It's lowered this morning. So, Corona concerns. In the news was China closed down one of their ports. I mean, they always seem to jump the gun, I guess, since they created this disaster and started it in their own home. They have the most experience with it, maybe the most concern. I don't know. But, over the last 6 months or so, they always seem to jump on rounding up people and wrapping them up in spacesuits and now closing this port. So we'll see what happens with that. Gold had that nasty drop and it's been bouncing. It's coming up into what I call a sell zone. Looking at the futures, you can get a better look at, the overnight and this beginning of a turn, which really isn't a big deal. Why do I say it's not a big deal? Because it's forming at the moment a V type of a top, right? Whereas when we look at the gap down and we look at the day chart and we see a gap down from a sideways consolidation, well, intraday, we say it's kind of a big deal. But from a longer term perspective, it's really not a big deal. It's actually the kind of pullback, if it's going to happen, what we want to see. And of course, we don't want to see it break below this consolidation, step by step. Could be another erratic kind of trading day here. Qs, really not going anywhere. We can't really get caught up too much in this gap down here this morning. It is Monday now. Looking at the weekly chart here, that bottoming tail bar, it didn't break a prior bar's low. And so we don't have any closes below a prior weekly low. I'm looking at this for quite a long time here. Now, you just want to put that line in the sand there and set an alert, because if we get a break below that, well, it'll be the first break since this one. But at the end of the week, if we should see a close below that, well, that becomes a more intermediate term concern as to this being a topping pattern versus a consolidation for prices to make the next power move higher. And the Russell continues to disappoint. That bottoming tail bar, I was hopeful that it could clear these highs and get moving. That didn't happen. We've got a little sell set up. We talked about this last week. We'll see how much this follows through, or the lack thereof. We really have opposing views to some extent here. And, this isn't a trading range. Came to the middle of the range. It would make sense for sellers to be there, and they are. And we had this grind higher where the dips have been bought. I would say kind of neutral to bearish, and really no real opportunities here. Supports right there. Here's the Dow pulling back, little topping tail. And we looked at gold, silver down near support there. And Bitcoin, one of the greens on the chart, but up against this minor resistance here and 50,000. So while the media is talking this morning about Bitcoin positives, so on and so forth, a rally up into this unfilled gap, and maybe it goes a little higher. This may be a resting day today, but that is a big number right there. And so that congestion, kind of a pattern. You can see the weekly, kind of a pattern that wouldn't be surprised to see some type of whipsaw, but clearly a bullish move off of the low after creating all these multiple pivots, which we talked about back at that time. So yes, that's about it for today, and we'll see where the day brings us. And starting off a little on the sell side, but stabilizing here. We may need to come down here and test this area. This is what happens when you have a void and you've got bullish price action that fails. The demand turns into supply and starts to drive it down, and we wait to see if it can start to build new areas of support. The MTS factory work is just that, what it's meant to be as close to black and white as it possibly can be. And it isn't always that way, but it's the closest thing you're going to get to it by removing the indicators. So, all yours, Dan.
Good morning.
Second, the dollar. Someone asked about the dollar. So you can look at the dollar, how much that plays into things here. It has been going up, made a little double top there. And there was a nasty kind of a move in the euro, breakdown, and started coming back up again after breaking the low. Unless I just, I haven't been talking about internals much, when someone asked about it. They're really just neutral. Actually, sentiment's been coming down, more put buying. Still historically, this is an inverted scale. If you look at your own, the numbers go up. I inverted the scale, more alignment with lows. So into the bands here, neutral to somewhat bullish. This is neutral. The breadth has been very terrible in a market that's been going up because a lot of stocks really aren't. And these are the yield curves we talked about in the advisory letter. One of the reasons that the market's a little bit bearish, that thing got a little negative versus the positive move that it's been in.
All right. Yeah, you mentioned Bitcoin. There's an article in the journal today saying that the small retailers are getting back into it. So probably, at the worst time. Again, as the chart showed. Our Ether is up with that, and I had moved the stop to Thursday's low. Obviously, a number of things down here. we have a ton of longs in both letters and the weekends. And if they trigger, they're fine. I don't have any alarms going off. We have a couple of shorts. So our only problem child of opens, other than minor things going against us, is Tesla here. And I might have to put this thing back on our do not trade list, or at least only sell option. Or I mean, we can buy them obviously, but if we do a credit spread, I've always said it's just one tweet away from a gap. Whereas this one, the news came out that they're doing a formal investigation of I think, Department of Transportation of their autopilot system. So we're short the 685s, which are still far away. But obviously don't like things going against us. So it's gapping under Thursday's open, which is not good. That's our bullish real body. So, we'll just keep an eye on it for now. Jets are down, the whole leisure tourism sector it should have had follow through on Thursday over Wednesday's high. And it's not, obviously everyone's focused on this Delta variant. Cruise ships, I read in the paper that 27 cruise ships have reported corona cases, whether it's staff or passengers. And, so that's down. Hyatt was buying some hotel. No pattern at all. Kind of looks pretty darn bad. Breakout failure, deep retracement. UPST was on a tear last week. I'm gapping down into this red bar, but maybe 30-minute low, maybe day trade. PLCE had been on a tear here. Wow, look at that gap breakout, then bottoming tail. That tail, right, was an ugly red bar at the low of the day, closing at the high. That bar is saying I'm going higher. My target would have been this prior high, but now it's gapping up, relative strength. Anything gapping up to relative strength. My Dow 30, they're all red, every single one except Merck and Verizon, just by a few pennies is all. They were all red a few minutes ago. ENLV, 12 bucks, gapping up. I think that's a bio. It's a cruise ship. Doyu, I think this was earnings or something in the news, but that is a picture of a death trend. Look at this monster head and shoulders here, left shoulder, right shoulder, head, MAs rolling over. This is actually a very good example of reading the messages of moving averages, even taking the candlesticks off. Well, that thing's in a death trend. CMP, I was hoping it would gap up because this is actually a bullish daily, weekly, monthly. It over last week's high, of course. I don't trust these dots because that's not sufficient in volume. But look at the weekly. The weekly is a buy setup into a WRB. The monthly is a 1, 2, 3. Although we're only halfway into it, we'll come back to you. That continues to be weak with no turn. No turn yet in SFIX. They'd have positive mention in Barron's. Sono gapping up 42 and change, big gap. I think the news was they had a favorable lawsuit against Google, but no pattern there. Boeing was on the cover of Barron's, and there was a positive article, and so that's not good. It's not good at all if you don't act bullish to a bullish article like that. Wendy's had some mention in Barron's, and I like this multi-month trading range. Look at all the EMAs flat, big price void. This was earnings with the Reddit boys. Reddit boys blasted that off as a toy. Oh, I forgot to say on Friday, the Reddit boys have a valuation based on an infusion of, I forget if it was 30 million or couldn't be, I don't know, 30 or 300, I forget, but a valuation of 10 billion. Those, the co-founder was on CNBC Friday, and wow, they built themselves a nice little chat room, billion-dollar company. Wow. LRCX. The semis were bullish, and I just noticed this one. So, Greg, I scanned all semis that were in the SMH over the weekend, and I actually was shocked that I would say 2/3 of them look bad, but the SMHs look great. So we have a put spread on SMH. And look at Microsoft bucking the trend here. What? I wish we got long on that on Thursday. I think Bossum was asking about it. And I said, yeah, if it closes strong, and it just kept going. That is relative strength right there. Wow. NVIDIA. Hey, NVIDIA relative strength. We're long this too. Wow, there's a couple things totally bucking the trend here. And there's two of them right there. NVIDIA, Microsoft. VER. VER up alarm. This was weekend letter. Fitch we had as a short, but now the 5-minute move is too much, so we got to wait on both of those. So Fitch. Oh, Greg, sorry I didn't get to your YouTube things there. I can look at them now real quick. Facebook's blasting off. So is Netflix. We're on Facebook. We had on the week. What is going on with this? Is crazy. I got NVIDIA, Microsoft, Apple, Facebook, Netflix. eBay's continuing its strength. But yeah, hold on before you kill YouTube. I'll look at those real quick. Let me just. VER Fitch. Let's hold on from those. All right, YouTube real quick was asking about Whirlpool, Cisco. Whirlpool, I have no idea what you want to do with that. We're short of put. We closed half in the strength on Friday. Could be day trade short just because it's had a big run. On Cisco, it's bullish. It has earnings on the 18th, which is Wednesday. We're short the $52 puts. FOA and STEM. FOA. It's a bear 1, 2, 3. Looks great as a short. If you don't mind shorting $5 stocks, the pattern looks good. Yeah, bearish gap, bearish close, price void, 1, 2, 3, sure. And STEM. Continuation pattern, day trade. It's fallen a lot from the prior pivot high, so I'm not crazy about it as a swing, but day trade. Yes, CNX. CNX 5-minute low. It's not as extended, or we can let me put it in a window and watch for a bounce. DRI also, Austin. Yeah, that one gapped under. So we got to hold off on that too. Shoot.